Hey, it's Shaq, and now that the NBA All-Star Weekend is over, it's time for the second half of the season to get underway. It's a tight battle in both the Western and Eastern Conferences, as teams are vying for playoff position. And I've been saying for months, there's only one place to get in on all the action. BetOnline.ag. Sign up today for a free account and use the promo code PODCAST1. And when you make your first deposit, you'll receive a 50% bonus. That's promo code PODCAST1. NBA excitement is heating up. Don't miss out on all the fun. BetOnline.ag, your online sportsbook experts.
All right, everybody, welcome to our AT&T Studios neighborhood in lovely, beautiful Los Angeles, California. I'm your humble host, sitting back here in a purple sweater, and I'm not going to lie, I'm feeling good. Everything's good today, good in the hood.
Attaboy.
Our final day of April. Turn the page to May, man. Got the Kentucky Derby coming up this weekend, more NBA and NHL playoffs this weekend. Draft is over. Feeling good. It's going to be a fun show today. 844-204-RICH is the number to dial here on this program. Good to see you, Brockman and Del Tufo, back at the post. Good to see you. Oh, look, I'm looking forward to tonight's Warriors-Rockets game. It's one of the many wonderful things about living on the West Coast is, we're not going to be fighting it like much of the East Coast. It's a big game in the NBA playoffs, as you could say, with all due respect to the Sixers evening up their series with the Raptors, even your Celtics, trying to take a 2-0 lead on the only team to hit 60 Ws this year in the regular season. That's a pretty big game tonight as well. The double dip on our friends at TNT. That's tonight. Hey, congrats to these Nuggets. They came out roaring.
They really did.
Last night. I mean, they came out fast. They came out good. Jokic is just truly elite. Everybody's sleeping on the Nuggets. Everybody is sleeping on the Denver Nuggets. Outside of the city of Denver, the entire NBA world, the entire sports world is sleeping on the Nuggets. Jokic, Murray, Millsap, they play fast, they play good, they play great at times. Jokic is just they run the offense through him, and he doesn't make mistakes, really. You don't see the bad pass, you don't see the bad shot. He just really is solid, to say the least. And he's the only player in NBA history to post the numbers that he's averaged through 8 playoff games, almost 25 a game, almost 12 rebounds a game, almost 9 assists a game. Last player to do that over an entire postseason was Oscar Robertson. So we're seeing stuff like Russell Westbrook numbers, right, in that regard. And
wow, he's
terrific. And the Blazers have been sitting around for a while. It was a close game, but then the Nuggets took it over last night. With all due respect to all of them, we're talking Warriors and Rockets, and the conversation that's been had, and I don't know if this is specific to Warriors-Rockets because we're not looking at these other games and saying, well, the defenders are jumping into the landing area of the shooters, or it's, again, as I mentioned yesterday, the Yanni Laurel of NBA situations. That's that piece of audio that you would hear it one way and I would hear it another way. And the way that you're looking at these videos, are you seeing it as James Harden and the Rockets jumping into Warriors to try and create contact? Do you see Warriors landing in the Rockets' landing zones? And this is specific to this series. Honestly, did you watch any of the Raptors and the Sixers last night and think about the same thing?
No.
Okay.
I did not.
I mean, and you watched Celtics-Bucks, obviously. Anything of that? Because I was it was dad life for me during that, and I saw highlights of it. You watched the whole thing. Was that the conversation that you had?
It was not.
Right. So this is specific just to this series, and obviously this is the biggest series. It involves the defending world champs. It involves the team that came as close to knocking off the defending world champs on their way to being that last year. So, and the team that everybody believes has the best shot, with all due respect to Nuggets and Blazers and every other team that I said. Everybody believes this. They have the best chance of preventing the Warriors from winning it again. So this is the biggest thing. And the Rockets were very vocal about not getting the calls. The Warriors extremely vocal about not getting whatever they thought that they should get. And the conversation over the last 24, 48 hours is about this. Did you see Van Pelt last night on his Sports Center? Did you see the Midnight Sports Center?
I did not.
Just an excellent look. You can choose anything with tape and video.
Sure.
Like we could cut up video of Brady not having a really good season with his arm strength last year. We could do that in 60 seconds, and you would have no idea what else happened. Okay.
Yeah, right.
But he showed video of Harden taking uncontested shots. When he's by himself, the defense is totally broken down. He is by himself on the 3-point line. And when he takes a shot, he jumps up and he lands in the same spot every time. On this tape. And then contested shots when somebody's on him or coming towards him, he kicks out his legs. Every time on this tape. And I'm sure I could then cut up tape to show you a couple of bunny hops that maybe Klay Thompson took towards Harden and Chris Paul as well. Bunny hops that they would take to get as close as possible and no call, which is why the Rockets are particularly upset because the end of Van Pelt's film session had a graphic of number of times players, top 3 players in the NBA, got an and one call on making a 3-point shot. Either it went or it didn't, but he got 3 foul shots out of being fouled on the 3-point arc. Harden, far and away, number 1. He got 93 such calls during the season. The next closest ones were around the 30 mark.
Goodness.
So that's why they're pissed, is he's gotten the calls all season long, didn't get it in game 1. So here comes game 2. At least tonight, the NBA did not put on the floor the referee the Rockets think is most biased against them. Hold on a minute. I'm being told they have done that. Scott Foster. Last time we saw him ref a game involving the Rockets, Chris Paul got ejected after the game, revealed that he has told the league, had conversations with the league, that this guy, Scott Foster, is biased against him personally. Harden backed that play as well. Remember that game in February?
Oh, yeah.
He was one of the only ones that they lost on the way into after the All-Star break. I think it was here in Los Angeles, was it not? Right after the All-Star break.
It was.
And the Lakers came back and beat the Rockets, and after the game, everybody with the Rockets basically said, this guy hates us. It's a proven commodity. The rest of the NBA in the management thinks he's one of the best officials. Players can't stand him. And he has not reffed a Rockets game since that day until tonight. Wow. Now, the NBA cannot let a team dictate who the officials are. It's that simple. It is that simple. You cannot let teams and players dictate who officiates. You cannot.
But
they seem to have done it the rest of the season until tonight. There is no but. You can't. They've got to put Scott Foster out on the floor at some point with the Rockets. They can't have him not officiate a Rocket game the rest of his career.
This is bad luck for the NBA.
Well,
man.
But what are you going to do? You have to put this guy on the floor at some point. I know there's 3 other series that you could have him do.
You could wait until they tie the series and have it be in Houston.
Brian Windhorst is joining us as our first guest in about 10 minutes' time. He has been all over this. He wrote a fascinating piece just last week about how awful it is getting between players and officials and coaches and officials, and how Steve Kerr, who is like the Sherpa and Zen Master 2.0 on every subject about cooling your jets, cooling your heels. Russell Westbrook shouldn't be next questioning people, etc. and so forth. Talking about how everybody loves watching the NBA and you shouldn't kill the golden goose by either being anti-fan or anti-media. Even Steve Kerr loses his cool with these guys, the refs. It's gotten really bad. And the NBA has to not like this. They have to be unhappy. A trending topic right now on Twitter as we are conversing in the first segment of this last day of May 2019 on The Rich Eisen Show is Scott Foster. He's up there with Venezuela because of what's going on down there right now. And God bless our country. Detective Pikachu is also trending. And Jim Carrey because he's in the new Sonic the Hedgehog trailer. These are all happening. Okay, I have no idea what the hashtag Benjamin Button in me is trending.
I don't know. Let me
I don't even want to, because if Benjamin Button is dead, I don't want to know. But Scott Foster's trending, and he hasn't even refed yet. We're talking about calls made by a ref that hasn't even been made yet, and this is the main marquee spotlight NBA playoff event. And you don't think the first time that Harden takes a three and gets a call, that place is not going to be like an absolute den of boos and screams and yells? And the first time that Harden doesn't get that call, what the screams are going to be? And if Scott Foster's the guy saying no call on Chris Paul? Oh, my gosh. Of all the times for the NBA to basically say, you can't tell us who is officiating tonight. They choose tonight to make that stand. And I have no idea if it was already in the works. I don't know. I'm assuming it was. I'm assuming they can't make up the officiating itinerary prior to the Western and Eastern Conference semifinals without and just going game by game. I can't imagine they do that. Scott Foster's got to know he's got game 3 of this series and game 4 of that series. He's not just hopping flights right now.
Could you imagine if that's the case, though? The whole story from game 1 is officiating and the Rockets not getting calls. And what does the NBA do?
This is the time we're going to push the Scott Foster button.
Yeah, we're going to schedule it now.
After not having called a game. I mean, the Rockets they can't be happy, and I don't know how the NBA could be happy. Scott Foster, a referee. You want to talk, and this is a third rail subject with the league for many reasons, and good reasons. A referee is trending the morning of a big game, of a series he hasn't even set foot on the floor for. Wow. Everybody's talking about it. And Windhorst had a great piece on it today. He's the one who broke the news that Scott Foster's been assigned to tonight's game, and he's joining us in about 7 to 8 minutes' time. And then we still have the NFL draft on the brain, and if you do too, we'll take your calls at 844-204-RICH. Look, I'm loath to say no league wants to have the officials or umpires or refs be out front. Nobody wants that. And I don't want to come on the show and just say, I'd love to say, hey, the Warriors are in trouble, or how great is Durant? Harden is sublime. Chris Paul is first ballot Hall of Fame stuff. Man, that shot Steph Curry made. I would love to come on and talk about this in the same way that we went nuts for Lillard's shot to close out the Thunder.
That's right.
I'd love it. Can't do it.
Nope, we have trending referees.
Can't do it.
Yeah.
So what's the NBA's thinking? When did they assign Scott Foster? What is the way out of this? And why is it just this series, why not other series? And could anybody else who's winning the other series or losing the other series actually beat the Warriors anyway? And one thing you got to ask Brian about, he's got a new book out, LeBron Inc. What's LeBron thinking? I'm sure right now he's enjoying the red wine and downtime with his family.
Yeah,
but as these things continue moving on and all we talk about is the championship and what's happening with these teams and who's winning and who's not, and he's not involved, I mean, at some point that's going to have to rankle, don't you think?
Did you see LeBron's Twitter last night?
Well,
speaking of crushing the red wine, I think LeBron was a little drinking and tweeting.
Okay. Good. Oh, really? We'll get to that. I did not see his Twitter feed last night. I know that he said that he's thrown out there that he's thinking of doing a Q&A at some point.
Yeah, but he made like 3 mistakes on one tweet and just like kept
going.
Kept the thread of it going.
God, bless him.
Talks about Daniel Craig wearing his sneakers while playing last night.
Okay, great. This will be great. This will be great. This day in history is pretty damn good, too. And Michael Cudlitz, who people still remember from Southland, obviously The Walking Dead, his show, The Kids Are All Right on ABC. He'll be hanging out here in hour number 3. It'll be a fun chat with him. Trent Dilfer coming up next. Brian Windhorst. What is our poll question over there, Chris Brockman?
Yeah, we're looking at NBA. So 3 of these series are 1-0. Which team trailing has the best chance to come back and win? We got Bucks, Rockets, and Blazers lost last night.
Very good. Yeah, man. When are people going to start thinking about the Nuggets as being for real outside of the city of Denver?
Not until they get to the finals. I mean, I think that's kind of the forgotten series, too. You mentioned it. I think no one's really paying attention to the Nuggets and Blazers.
Did you see Steve Kerr also compared Durant to Jordan? We have B.J. Armstrong in studio tomorrow to talk about tonight That and so much more. We're going to have a fun week here back from our NFL draft in Nashville. But coming up next, Brian Windhorst of ESPN on what's going on with the Rockets and Warriors. And Scott Foster's still trending. And so is Detective Pikachu. Keep an eye on all of that stuff. That's still to come here on The Rich Eisen Show. Everybody's got a to-do list. Drop off the dry cleaning, pick up some milk. Here's an idea. Let's save hundreds of dollars on car insurance to that list. And the good thing is you don't have to drop off or pick up anything. All you have to do is go to geico.com, and in 15 minutes, you could be saving 15% or more on car insurance. Extra money in your pocket, of course. This may be the most rewarding you do today. Hey, listeners, just wanted to take a minute to thank all of my great sponsors and all of you great listeners for supporting this podcast. Certainly couldn't do this show without either of you, and I wanted to remind you that you can support my sponsors by going to my show page at podcast1.com, clicking on the Support This Podcast button, and there you'll see all of my wonderful sponsors that help make this show possible. So thank you for downloading, subscribing, and, of course, supporting. Now, back to the show.
Here comes Harden. Harden steps back, puts up a three, won't go. Rebound goes to Paul. Ball knocked loose, and Gordon was out of bounds when he had it. And a technical foul. Paul's just been thrown out of the game. Chris Paul with his second technical, which is automatic ejection.
And the Rockets think Harden got fouled on his initial three-point shot.
A heartbreaking loss for Houston here in Game 1.
Yeah, and that ejection of Chris Paul made an even dozen ejections in the playoffs this year, which is tied for the most we have seen in the NBA playoffs. That is something else. And it's been on average of a little bit more than 6 ejections per playoffs. Let me get the exact stat right here. But I know the guy who would know that because he wrote about it coming up right here on the Rich Eisen Show in the Honda Insider Report. He is none other than Brian Windhorst. How are you, Brian?
Hi, Rich.
So Scott Foster's trending right now on Twitter. How do you think the NBA likes that?
Terrible. It's a real commentary on where the league is right now. I mean, I think from 30,000 feet, the fact that there's so much attention paid on the NBA and that an officiating assignment in a second-round playoff game can be discussed on national television and national radio shows just how far the league has come in terms of visibility. But it's just not a positive trend. And there is a coming black eye to the NBA with officials and teams. It has been building. It has been boiling. In the last 2 weeks, we've seen one player throw a ball at an official. We've seen a GM go into the official's locker room. We saw Chris Paul bump an official in Game 1 for which he was fined $35,000. The officials are pushing back, which is one of the reasons the ejections are way up. The situation is boiling right now, and it needs to be turned down for the good of the game.
So then how does Scott Foster get assigned tonight? Was this before the playoffs, or did somebody in the league office, after everything that happened in Game 1 with the Rockets' reaction to everything that happened in Game 1, say, let's put their least favorite official on the floor for Game 2? How did that happen?
Yeah, so the officials are the first 4 games of every series, the officials are assigned in advance. So Scott Foster was going to be Game 2's official, whether the Rockets won by 75 points in Game 1 or lost at the end of the game on a foul call. They are putting him early in the series to leave room for him to come back late in the series. Last year, he officiated Game 7 of the Rockets-Warriors series. He is a 25-year official. This is his 20th playoffs. He is routinely ranked among the top 5 to 7 officials, which is why he gets these assignments. And the thing about it is, Rich, that historically, if you are a visiting team, you want Scott Foster. There was a streak a couple of years ago where visiting teams won 12 consecutive games in the playoffs when Scott Foster was the official. Now, some of that is just variance, some of that is just luck. But I do believe that Scott Foster, for the reasons that the Rockets hate him, especially what they believe is arrogance, he is not intimidated by a crowd. He will make any call at any time. And I think for a visiting team, typically you like to see Scott Foster because you feel like he will not be pushed around by the crowd. Obviously, though, the Rockets don't care where the game is played. They don't want to see Scott Foster. But, Rich, if you were watching, and most fans would never watch this, but if you were watching the officiating assignments over the last 3 days, Scott Foster hadn't worked any second-round games yet, and he was on the second-round roster. So it was pretty clear he was either going to be assigned to Milwaukee tonight or Oakland tonight. The Rockets knew that it was a good possibility yesterday.
So they did not know until today, even though the assignments are made but aren't released to the teams until day of? Is that the way it works?
Right. Huh. Yeah, that's been the rule for years. The officiating assignments are announced at 9 a.m. Eastern for every game from the preseason to the final.
So how do you think Daryl Morey and the rest of the Rockets took that news this morning, Brian?
I'm sure they're upset, but, Rich, this entire thing is a smokescreen.
Okay.
It's all an elaborate smokescreen. James Harden is in a slump. He can't make a shot. He's shooting 32% over the last 4 games. He's shooting 28% from three-point range. He's trying to get the whistle. He can't get it. Kevin Durant is shooting 55% over the last 5 games and averaging 40 points a game. I don't care what official you have in the entire world over. If you don't turn that around, you're not winning this series. The whole thing is a smokescreen. The Rockets are playing everybody. They specialize in finding and exploiting inefficiencies, whether that's the corner three-point shot, whether it's the players that they elect to sign or to draft, or whether it's certain play calls that they know where they can apply pressure to referees, specifically the three-point shot. The rules on where you can land and how you can defend a three-point shot are vague. And the Rockets know this, and they take advantage of it, just like they take advantage of the corner three-pointer. The strategy is fine, but don't think for a second that they've been historically wronged or something. Every team gets bad calls. Every team has issues with officials. By the way, the Warriors do not like Scott Foster. A lot of teams do not like Scott Foster. One of the other guys in this game tonight, Ed Malloy, ejected Kevin Durant in the last round. So the concept that this is about Scott Foster or that this is about the Rockets being wronged is a market inefficiency that the Rockets are trying to exploit, and they're sucking everybody into it. They're smarter than a lot of teams, and they're trying to fool people. Don't let yourself be fooled.
Brian Windhorst in the Honda Insider Report from ESPN. You just said a lot right there. I want to put a pin in a couple of things and revisit, but I want to hit right here, right now, what I'm sure some Rockets fans are thinking upon hearing what you just said. The Warriors aren't jumping into the landing zone of the Rockets? You don't think that they're not taking some bunny hops and taking advantage of knowing what the Rockets are trying to do, Brian?
Like I said, the rules are a little bit vague. It is legal for the player who is defending the three-point shot to move slightly forward, okay? And that is what is happening. It is also something the Rockets are doing where Harden is specifically sticking his legs and going forward on three-pointers. That last three-pointer that he was upset he didn't get fouled on, Harden took off about 3 feet behind the three-point line, and his feet landed inside the three-point line. That is not a foul if you go forward like that. Now, were there other calls in that game where the Warriors came up underneath James Harden? Absolutely. Without question, there should have been a couple of plays called. Was that the reason that the Rockets lost the game? No. They're averaging 98 points a game. This is the number 2 offense in the NBA. They're averaging 98 points a game over their last 4 games. Their offense has lost its mojo. They got thrown off their rhythm by the Jazz, and the Warriors completely took away the Clint Capella lob game, and he had a miserable game. And Harden going 4 of 16 from three-point range, and the Capella game being taken apart was the reason they lost the game. The rest of it is just a smokescreen. There are official calls that happen both ways in every game that is part of the flow of the game.
And you know, you pointing out as well, it's not just a Scott Foster thing with the Rockets. He's going to be universally disliked tonight. And it's not just a Scott Foster thing. There are other refs on the floor with history that's going on. All that said, don't you think it's odd that after Chris Paul and the Rockets made as public as they've ever done their animus toward Scott Foster and what they think is in the same direction going the other way, that they keep him away from the Rockets all the way up until this series? I mean, I understand the NBA. Look, I know the league can't let a team dictate who refs their games, but right. to keep him away all this point, and then for the biggest series that these two teams might face all year long, certainly in the mind's eye of the fans, now they decide to return him to the floor against the Rockets?
Yeah, it's a very fair question. I don't have the data of, for all I know, Scott Foster didn't officiate a Utah Jazz game for the first 2 months of the season, and then officiated 8 in the second half. I don't have the data of the average time between officiating assignments. I do agree that is unusual, and seems to me that there may have been something at play there. I do not know how long they schedule the guys out in the regular season. I think it's a couple of weeks at a time. I agree that is unusual, but I can't say for sure that that's anything out of the ordinary in the regular referee rotation. But again, I wrote a story about the officiating last week where I expected Scott Foster to be in this series. And I'm going to tell you again, if this sucker goes 6 or 7, I expect to see Scott Foster for a second time. He is a top 5 official. No matter what anybody wants to say, they rate these officials this way, and he is there because of his rating. It is not a surprise to me at all that he is here. And again, even when I was with the Rockets yesterday at their practice, they had been watching knowing that Scott Foster was probably coming, and they were wondering when it was going to happen. And when they saw that Scott Foster did not draw a game yesterday, and we were 3 days into the second round, and there had been multiple games played, and a game in every series, and Scott Foster's name hadn't popped up, they knew he was either in Milwaukee in a hotel room last night or he was in Oakland in a hotel room last night. I'm telling you, they knew it was coming.
It's like a meme, Foster is coming, like Game of Thrones, Foster is coming.
That's right.
I mean, and I read that piece that you're referring to about officiating last week on ESPN.com. It's a great piece. I suggest everybody go read it. And in conjunction with a piece that just got posted in the last 24 hours from your colleagues Zach Lowe and Rachel Nichols about the Rockets having put together a memo they never forwarded to the league, but they did express and communicate the contents of the memo to the league, looking at Game 7 last year between the Rockets and the Warriors that Foster did referee, saying that there were 81 potential missed calls and non-calls in Game 7 that cost him at least 18 points on average. And the memo, according to this article, essentially accused the referees of throwing it. So when you talk about how bad it is getting, this seems like it's now reached the DEFCON level that the commissioner has to step in. What can be done to tamp down the argument
here? You're too smart for this. The average fan who doesn't do this for a living, I understand why they would fall for it. You're too smart for this. This is a smokescreen. The Rockets missed 27 consecutive three-pointers in Game 7. James Harden shot 24% in the series on three-pointers. There was another game he had in that series where he went 0 of 11 from three-point range. They lost that series for a bunch of different reasons.
No, I know that. I'm not saying that their argument has merit at all. What I'm saying is they're making it, and they're coming up with. I mean, Daryl Morey's putting his Sloan MIT to work right here.
That's right,
and putting it in the face of the NBA. And I'm sure he might not be the only team to do that. What I'm saying is it is ratcheting up. Your point is that is dead solid on here. That there's a boiling pot. There's a lid on top of it. What does the commissioner do? Does he start fining teams for even twitching in that direction? Or what can be done here to turn down the temperature so Scott Foster's not trending, and we're talking about a huge Game 2 tonight with a different filter?
Well, they're passing out fines left and right. There's been massive fines handed out in this postseason already. There's not a lot of leadership being shown, in my opinion, by the people who should be showing the leadership. Steve Kerr, for example. Steve Kerr is one of the most socially conscious and progressive thinkers in all of American sport. His voice is super duper important, but he has led the Warriors. The Warriors, to me, are the most egregious team in the league right now about the way they treat officials. Kevin Durant and Draymond Green have been out of control at times this year. One of the few ways that again, this is the Rockets being smart. I mean, I'm not mad at the Rockets for trying to do this because they're just playing the game. I'm just trying to get people's eyes to open. It's almost impossible to beat the Warriors 4 out of 7, okay, because they're just too damn good if they're healthy. Now, if Steph Curry sprains his ankle and misses 3 games, that's a different story. one of the few places where the Warriors are vulnerable is the way they handle officials. They lose their mind. They get ejected from games. They rack up technicals. They rack up flagrants. They get suspensions for their things. So one of the ways that you can get to the Warriors is to apply pressure to the officials and get them thinking more about the officials than they are about the opponent. And Steve Kerr, in my opinion, as good as he has done in everything else, as the leader of the Golden State Warriors, has not done a good job in setting an example not to let the officiating bother them. The Warriors allow the officiating to bother them, and I don't think Steve Kerr has done a good job to stop it. And I also think that part of the thing that's happened in the NBA since Adam Silver took over, it's been a much more player-friendly administration. Things that got you suspended during David Stern's era with the officials now get you fined. Things that you got fined for during David Stern now get you nothing. It's been a long time coming. And again, we're heading towards a boiling point. Like I said, just in the last 2 weeks, we have DeMar DeRozan throwing a ball at an official. By the way, you know what official he threw the ball at, Rich?
Is it Scott Foster?
He threw the ball at Scott Foster. So are the Spurs?
Oh, my word.
Are the Spurs being penalized to have Scott Foster do that game? Okay. Then we had Sean Marks, again, a very high character person who has stocked the entire Brooklyn Nets team with high character people. It's one of the reasons why they've made such a good turnaround. It's one of the most admirable teams in the league. Sean Marks going into the officials' locker room to complain after a game like a 7th grade parent chasing a ref to a locker room. That's not high character. That's not good leadership. And we've got Chris Paul, the president of the Players Association, one of the guys who's supposed to lead the players, bumping an official. If David Stern was the commissioner, he might have suspended Chris Paul.
So
what?
What?
Got fined $35,000.
So there's no
fix.
That
is not good leadership.
So
that is not good leadership by these influential people.
So there's no fix. Is that what you're saying? That it's just it's out of control and there's no way to fix. I mean, if fines don't work, do you start?
It can't be fixed in one day. It's been we've been heading in this direction. But my concern for the league is that we're going to have a blow up here, and I think and then this series is particularly ripe for it, Rich. Again, because the way the Rockets play specifically is aimed at applying pressure to the officials. When they come into every single game, their game plan is 3-pointers, layups, and getting to the foul line. The way James Harden plays the game is designed to apply pressure to the officials and take advantage of vagueness in rules to get to the foul line. So any Rockets game is going to be somewhat difficult for an official. And that's the other thing. No matter what the Rockets want to say, every time they play a game, whether it's in the preseason or whether it's in the finals, they bring a certain baggage to the game. When the officials go over their pregame plan, this is one thing people don't really realize. There's 3 teams on every NBA court, and then a half hour before the game, one team's going over its game plan, the other team's going over its game plan, and the referees are in their locker room going over the game themselves. And one of the things that they say is, "Hey, let's be aware that Harden likes to flop on 3-point shooting." And so they are predisposed to keep an eye on Harden and not let him get away with it, especially at the highest level with veteran officials. That was one of the other things that this audit bogus thing that the Rockets are using to try to influence future calls did. They said that the veteran officials, when they studied it, were more likely to make incorrect calls against the Rockets, as if the veteran officials are somehow flawed. What really happens there is that veteran officials know the Rockets' schemes and game plans and trickeration, and they come into the game not letting them get away with it as much.
You're the man, Brian.
It's not to say that they don't miss calls, Rich, but this is a multi-layered thing that the Rockets are trying to say, look at the surface, but it's actually much deeper.
All right. Before I let you go, quickly ask him the poll question, Chris, that's out there today on our app.
Yeah, Brian, 3 teams down 0-1. Who's got the best chance to come back? Bucks, Rockets, Blazers.
What do you think?
Well, the Bucks were the number 1 team in the league for a reason this year, although you could see their inexperience in Game 1. So I'll say the Bucks, but Boston has to feel pretty good about itself.
Brian, thanks for the call. Appreciate it. I will ask you about more about your book next time you're on LeBron Inc., The Making of a Billion-Dollar Athlete, that was released earlier this month. Let's chat down the line in a couple weeks. Always enjoy our chats immensely. Thank you.
Thanks, Rich. Take care.
You met. That's Brian Windhorst at Windhorst ESPN. That's what you call an insider report right there. I mean, that's you can't get more inside than what we just got in that Honda insider report right there. He was calling me out. He goes, "You're smarter than I got it. You're smarter than that" from him. And in terms of why haven't we seen it in other games? Remember, that's how we started our show. We haven't seen it. It's a Rockets thing. It's a YP, not an NBAP.
How about that?
But it's an NBAP. It's an NBA problem.
That's an SFP tonight.
Well, it's an OP, right? Oakland.
I was going to say Scott Foster.
Oh, I thought you went San Francisco.
Yeah.
Yes, Scott. 844-204-RICH. Lots to unpack. A 21-year run in the sports media business ended today. One that I was part of way back in the day. We'll discuss that when we come back here on the Rich Eisen Show. That was the Honda Insider Report brought to you by the 2019 Honda Civic lineup. From the fun-to-drive Civic Si and versatile Civic hatchback to the record-breaking performance of the Civic Type R, there is a Civic for every enthusiast. Head to your Honda dealer today to find yours. There's no answer to what he just said, and it's only going to get worse. Wait till you hear this day in history. Way back when the players were fighting with each other and the coaches were holding on for dear life onto people's ankles. I miss those days instead of refs ejecting players and players barking at refs saying, "You're not giving me a call," and they go to the free throw line 25 times a game anyway. That's our world here on the last day in April 2019 here on the Rich Eisen Show. What do you think about when you think about your bank? You think about fees and minimums. It's your money. You don't want to lose more money just by banking. You want your money to grow. You want your money to be safe. You don't want more money coming out of your account just because of where you're keeping it. That's why Capital One cares about your time and money. You want to open a savings account? You want to open a checking account? How about this? No fees, no minimums. How about that? And then when you open a savings account, you only get one of the best savings rates in America. And you can do virtually all your banking anytime, anywhere, right from the palm of your hand, thanks to the Capital One top-rated mobile app. In less than 5 minutes, you can do all your banking. And if you want to walk into a spot and see a human being, you'll notice a difference there, too, because that's a Capital One cafe situation that Capital One has created near you. You got to go check these places out. It's inviting. It's a great spot. Have a little Wi-Fi, a little coffee, and then a little bit of banking for you. Go to CapitalOne.com/bank or visit a cafe or go to Capital One's website for details. It's not the same services as bank branches you're going to get, but you're going to get ATMs and associates who are there to help you, not try and sell you on something. That's banking reimagined. From Capital One, NA member FDIC. So, what's in your wallet?
Have you checked out the big podcast with Shaq here at Podcast One? Yeah, we talk basketball, but we're a lot more than just sports.
I met this fabulous lady. She had to be in her 70s, knew everything about me, knew everything about sports. And the last thing she says, "I love your podcast." And I was like, "Thank you very much. But I hate that John Kincaid."
That's terrible. Listen free to the big podcast with Shaq exclusively on Apple Podcasts, PodcastOne.com, and the Podcast One app. If you love the show, share it with a friend and leave us a rating and review.
Stay tuned for 60 seconds of AP News headlines right after this podcast.
Tonight we need to make history, right?
Here is a bulletin.
This day in history.
The rest is history.
Hardaway, no. Rebound, New York. And fists are flying at the other end. Larry Johnson is one of them.
Here we go. Look at Van Gundy down at the bottom of your screen. That's Van Gundy just holding on. New York Knicks tie the series at 2, but the game will be forever remembered by the fracas at the end involving Alonzo Mourning and Larry Johnson.
Wait a minute. Vern Lundquist called that moment?
What?
And I thought did I hear Doc Rivers too? Was
Yeah.
it Vern and Doc?
Oh, my gosh. That's amazing.
That called that moment at the end of the game, and everybody got suspended, right?
Oh, yeah.
Everybody got suspended. I think Ewing put a toe out on the floor and got suspended.
Speaking of the David Stern era.
Exactly. I mean, this plays into everything that Windhorst just said. But also, look, things were getting a little out of hand, right?
Yeah, that was a little crazy.
The Malice in the Palace happened before or after that?
After.
Right? I mean, it's crazy, man. But I kind of miss those days.
Yeah.
Van Gundy on the floor who was grabbing on Alonzo Mourning's ankle.
By the way, that happened with like 5 seconds to go in the game.
Man, oh, man. That's This Day in History, brought to you by our friends at TNT. The NBA Conference semifinals are underway, and tonight, the doubleheader. Bucks try to even the series And the Rockets try to do the same. 8 Eastern, and then after that, Rockets Warriors. Going to be good tonight.
Alonzo Mourning, Larry Johnson suspended.
Oh, my word. Wow. Okay. Yeah, there was another fight I was talking about with Pat. Another Miami. Yeah, I think that was a different year, right? Where Ewing stepped a toe on the floor and then got suspended for another time. At any rate, that's another day. I'm sitting here getting ready for today's show, and you say, "Did I ever write anything for ESPN the magazine?" I'm like, "Yeah, I did. Why?" And you're like, "They're shuttering it after 21 years, huh?"
Shut it down. Last issue will be in September.
Wow.
So it was first published March 23rd, 1998. The cover had 4 athletes proclaimed next.
I remember that. I went to the opening of that. I went to the opening party, and I remember Eric Lindros was on the cover, and then we're one from each
of the major
sport,
sports.
right? I'm not looking at the screen right here because I remember it was Lindros and A-Rod.
Yep.
Kobe was the NBA.
Kobe was NBA.
The NFL, 1998. Was it Peyton Manning? Was he next?
I mean, you couldn't be more far off.
Yeah, I mean,
Cordell Stewart.
Oh, my word. Wow.
I mean,
I went to that next party, March of 19, and I wrote for it, too.
What did you do? What did you write for?
I wrote a column called Bristol 06010.
Okay.
That was and I would just write about places that I went and things that I did. You know, I saved some of these copies of the magazine, including one I wrote about being in the World Trade Center the month before 9/11. Had a picture of my niece, who was a little girl at the time, looking down from the World Trade Center. So I wrote about everything, clearly. If you had to create a next now,
okay,
one in each sport, who would it be?
Do we have to use hockey?
Yeah, of course we have to.
I don't know.
By the way, I can already hear our director Mango, who is the biggest hockey hunk that we have in the Rich Eisen show universe. He is not happy right now. He's not happy right now.
Jack Eichel, the guy for the Sabres.
You could go McDavid,
Connor McDavid, sure.
Mango, who would you be?
Tavares, maybe.
Go for it. You tell me. You're our hockey expert.
I mean, you have to go Zion, right?
Yeah.
For NBA.
So who would it be?
Zion Williamson.
Zion.
Austin Matthews is the choice.
For hockey?
For hockey.
Okay.
Zion would be next.
Patrick Mahomes, I think, is your NFL player.
How is it not? I mean, you could go Saquon.
Baker Mayfield.
How do you not go the kid who, in his first full year being a starter, 2 years removed from Texas Tech, throws 50 touchdowns, including one with his left arm, one of these no-looking. He's absolutely the next.
I think for baseball.
You said before the show, Mike, you're like, it's got to be Kyler Murray.
I like Kyler.
Because you put people on the cover to be provocative.
Right.
Although there was really nothing. Cordell was the next slash.
I mean, that's
amazing. My word. Hey, he was 4 years removed from Hail Marying Michigan on that cover.
I think baseball, maybe you go Ronald Acuna, maybe. They might a young up-and-coming player.
It's still got to be Trout, don't you think?
He's in his 8th year in the league.
So what? He's still got next. He's still young.
No, he doesn't have next.
No.
You don't think so? You don't think he's got next?
These guys are in their mid to late 20s.
Maybe
now.
Kyler Murray's baseball.
Judge would be more than Trout.
Aaron Judge.
There you go.
Face of next. No, it would be Mookie Betts, maybe.
Mookie Betts, too. Another one.
But all these guys are 26.
Right now, it would be Bellinger.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Holy crap, what an April he's having.
Great fantasy pick.
But this is interesting. If anybody wants to call 844-204-RICH, who would be your next Mount Rushmore right now? 21 years ago, it was Lindros, Cordell Stewart, Kobe, and A-Rod. How is it not Jeter? What in the world? Trent Dilfer and you coming up.
Hello, guys. It's MMA fighter Chael Sonnen. Check out my podcast, You're Welcome, with Chael Sonnen every Wednesday and Friday right here at Podcast One. We cover the latest in mixed martial arts and everything else going on in the world of sport. Listen free to You're Welcome with Chael Sonnen, exclusively available at podcastone.com and on the Podcast One app. If you love the show, share it with a friend and leave us a rating and review.
Gun violence claims lives on a North Carolina campus. I'm Jackie Quinn with an AP News Minute. 2 people were killed when a gunman opened fire on a campus building at the University of Carolina, Charlotte. 4 people were wounded. Campus Police Chief Jeff Baker was asked if the suspect is someone that they knew was troubled.
It's an ongoing investigation that could reveal something like that, but I can tell you right now, it's not. He is not somebody that is on our radar.
No names or possible motive yet released. The man accused of killing a woman inside her California synagogue this weekend and blasting the finger off of a rabbi has entered a not guilty plea today in court. A flood barrier failed in Davenport, Iowa, sending water gushing through the downtown area. People had to be rescued from buildings and cars. A major power shortage at the International Space Station has delayed a launch of supplies this week. I'm Jackie Quinn.